Welcome back to Behind the Arc Basketball. The 2021-2022 college basketball season is just around the corner. The official college basketball season will tip off on Tuesday, November 9, 2021. This past offseason, there was so much movement with a countless number of players who transferred in the offseason, along with players departing for the NBA draft, and also players who were granted an extra season of eligibility, and also new recruits looking to make an impact on the court for their respective programs. With all these off-season movements, it's so tough to predict what's going to happen this upcoming season with all these changes. But anyways, I'm going to give it a try right here in this video. In this video, I'm going to reveal my college basketball preseason top 25 predictions for the 2021-2022 college basketball season. This is the second part of a two-part video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to check out my first preseason rankings video for teams number 46 through 25. That is in a separate video. That link is posted down in the description below. Also, make sure to check out my play-by-play live streams throughout the season of me commentating college basketball games. It is definitely something that I would highly recommend to check out. But now, let's dig into my top 25 previews, starting off at number 25. I have the Oklahoma State Cowboys from the Big 12. Oklahoma State with one gigantic loss in the offseason, going number one in the NBA draft to the Detroit Pistons' Cade Cunningham, but the rest of the roster will stay intact, as Oklahoma State will have senior guard Isaac Likely coming back. He should assume the point guard duties in place of Cunningham, and coming off a disappointing season, averaging just over 9 points per game. That is down from just under 11 points per game during the season prior for Likely, but he'll be back in the starting lineup for the Cowboys. Also, number 2 scorer from last season, guard Avery Anderson. He broke out last season as the number 2 option behind Cunningham. He will be back along with 2 promising sophomores, guard Rondell Walker and forward Matthew Alexander Moncrief. Both of these players will look to build off their first season, assume a larger role in season number 2. And the brothers of Caleb and Keelan Boone, they'll be also back as well for Oklahoma State, as the Cowboys will add in 2 new players here via transfer. Guard Bryce Thompson from Kansas, who was a top 25 recruit from the class of 2020. And also to boost up the front court, 6'10" center Musa Cisse from Memphis, who led the Tigers last season with over 6 rebounds per game as a freshman. At number 24, back in the top 25, I have the Auburn Tigers. They had one of the youngest rosters in all college basketball last season. This season, once again, they're going to be eligible for the NCAA tournament after being ineligible last season. The Tigers lost some key players to the NBA draft with star point guard Sharif Cooper and forward JT Thor, but the Tigers also lost 2 other players, with Justin Powell transferring to Tennessee, Jamal Johnson transferring to UAB. But back for Auburn, junior guard Alan Flanagan. He averaged over 14 points per game last season, 5.5 rebounds per game. And also junior guard Devin Cambridge will be back along with junior forward Jalen Williams. Head coach Bruce Pearl going to the transfer portal. He will add in 4 key transfers, with sophomore center Walker Kessler, the biggest name, a top 20 recruit from the class of 2020 from North Carolina. Sophomore guard KD Johnson, who averaged over 13 points per game as a freshman at Georgia. He transfers over to Auburn, along with 2 mid-major guard transfers, with Zep Jasper from Charleston and Wendell Green from Eastern Kentucky. Both of those players, Jasper and Green, averaged over 15 points per game last season. Auburn will also get a 5-star freshman recruit with Jabari Smith. The Tigers should be much improved this season. I see them back into the top 25 for this upcoming season. At number 23, I'm going with the Xavier Musketeers right here. I am higher than what they come in the AP preseason poll. Xavier comes in at number 32 in the AP preseason poll, but I've got this team as a sleeper for this upcoming season. If it wasn't for 2 lengthy pauses during last season's uncertain type of season for college basketball, Xavier would have made last season's NCAA tournament. The Musketeers started off the season 7-0, which included a 22-point beatdown versus Oklahoma before going on their first pause. And then the Musketeers came back after the pause to lose their last 6 of 8 to drop them from NCAA tournament contention. But head coach Travis Steele, he lost 2 players from the roster, which are the number 9 and 11 scorers from last season, with Jason Carter and Brian Griffin. Ball handling just so important in college basketball, and Xavier is led by a senior going into his 5th season, getting an extra season of eligibility with point guard Paul Scruggs. He is back. He has started over 80 games during his career for Xavier. Alongside Scruggs is senior shooting guard Nate Johnson, who is coming off his best 3-point shooting season, knocking down over 45% of his perimeter shots, averaging over 11 points per game last season for Xavier. Junior forward Zach Fremantle, he is one of the most improved players last season, leading the Musketeers in scoring and rebounding, though we have some injury news on him. He'll be back around December, it's expected. It was just announced in late October that Zach Fremantle suffered a foot injury, but he hopes to be back by the start of conference play. That's a big loss for the first month of the season for Xavier. But the roster, though, it is deep this season for the Musketeers. Gets even deeper. Returning guards Kai Tandy, Dewan Odom, Colby Jones, Adam Kunkel, all back for Xavier. Senior forward Ben Stanley, he is back after just playing 4 games last season, but he averaged 22 points per game for Hampton during the 2019-2020 season. Travis Steele adding in 2 power conference transfers, mostly rotational players, but going to have to step up now in place to start off the season. In place of Fremantle is forward Jack Nungy. He comes over from Iowa, and also via transfer, Jerome Hunter comes over from Indiana. I feel like this team right here is being slept on tremendously for this upcoming season with all the players that they retained in the offseason along with their pickups. I got the Musketeers this season at number 23. Now we'll go inside the top 25 and number 22, going to the mid-major portion, as this is the St. Bonaventure Bonnies from the A-10. They're looking for back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances for the first time in school history, and it's extremely possible here that it will happen coming up for the Bonnies. Head coach Mark Smith, he returns all his starters as seniors in his 15th season as head coach for the Bonnies in Illini, New York. The top of the A-10 should run through St. Bonaventure right here. St. Bonaventure had a top 10 defense last season and fewest points allowed, and also they were a top 10 defense holding opponents in three-point shooting percentage. The offense did struggle, however, as they hovered around 70 points per game on average this past season, which was around a 200 ranking mark nationally last season. But the whole starting 5 is back once again, all as seniors with guards Kyle Lofton, Jaron Holmes, Dominic Welch, Jalen Attaway, and also their centers back with Oshunahi once again, as all 5 players averaged more than 10 points per game last season for the Bonnies. And they also get national televised games in the non-conference league against teams like Boise State, UConn, Virginia Tech, and also the Bonnies right here. I feel like they're by far going to take the A-10. The top challenger to them should be Richmond, I predict here, which Richmond returns 7 seniors on the roster, but they got the Bonnies this season as a top 25 team, and they should be better than what they had as a number 9 seed in the March Madness tournament. That should be as a higher number coming up for this upcoming season. Now at number 21, back to the Power Conference as we go to the Big Ten here, as that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. I feel like for this season, it's going to be going through the front court with their star player, E.J. Liddell, as he is back. That's a good strength to have here, which will be the front court this upcoming season for Ohio State, because the Big Ten happens to be dominated by bigs. Kofi Cockburn, Hunter Dickinson. This should be a big-time Big Ten conference for this upcoming season in the front court. But E.J. Liddell, he'll be the star player, junior forward. He improved tremendously last season as he averaged over 16 points per game, under 7 rebounds per game. Back for Ohio State will be senior forwards Justice Suing and Kyle Young. And also the backcourt, it's going to look completely different for this upcoming season. Leading scorer Dwayne Washington Jr., he departed in the offseason along with point guard C.J. Walker. That's why I put Ohio State lower than their AP preseason poll ranking at number 17, because I don't think that there's much depth there at the guard position. They're pretty stacked as far as forwards on the roster, but as far as the guard position, they need players to step up, and that's where they turn to the transfer portal. Senior shooting guard Cedric Russell, who started 88 games at Louisiana. He averaged over 17 points per game last season, as Chris Holtmann, head coach, was able to pick him up in the transfer portal. Also, the Buckeyes getting another transfer with point guard Jamari Wheeler from Penn State. Ohio State, though, having a ton of depth in the front court with Indiana transfer Joey Brunk to add to the list as well, along with returnees Zed Key, Seth Towns, and Justin Arns. Ohio State, though, quite undersized when competing against other bigs on the glass in their conference, say like Hunter Dickinson and Kofi Cockburn. Though Cedric, he's going to have to be the one that will take over that role in place of Dwayne Washington Jr., who had the top scorer from last season to keep the Buckeyes 1-2 duo alive next to E.J. Liddell, who is bound to have a monster season for Ohio State. I've got the Buckeyes this season at number 21. Now at number 20. To the ACC, we have the Virginia Tech Hokies. One of the biggest surprises from this past season, finishing third in the ACC. The Hokies didn't lose many pieces either in the offseason. Number 2 scorer Tyrese Radford, he transferred to Texas A&M. Virginia Tech had a 3-1 record through a 4-game stretch without Radford, and one of those victories was against top 10 ranked Virginia. Point guard Wabisa Bede, he's also the other starter to depart from the team in the offseason, declaring not to use his extra season of eligibility. He was instead hired by Virginia Tech's former head coach Buzz Williams to be part of the Texas A&M coaching staff. But the Hokies head coach Mike Young, he's going to return the majority of his roster, which includes the top scorer from last season, Kevi Aluma, who took a massive leap after a redshirt season, junior guard Naheem Aline, who shot the ball over 40% from three-point range last season, averaged over 11 points per game, is back, along with a third starter with senior forward Justin Mutz. He is back as well. Now, moving into the starting unit, I expect will be sharpshooting junior guard Hunter Couture, who shot the ball at over 43% from three-point range last season. Replacing Beatty at the point guard position happens to be a scoring upgrade here for Virginia Tech. This is senior Storm Murphy at point guard. Murphy is a 4-year starter for the Wofford Terriers, and he averaged just under 18 points per game last season for Wofford while shooting the ball around 40% from three-point range. That is a big-time boost right there for the perimeter attack and a lead point guard this season for Virginia Tech. The Hokies, they struggled last season. They were bottom of the pack in ACC in three-point shooting percentage, and that is what Murphy will bring an offensive spark to Virginia Tech. I've got the Hokies this season as a sleeper in the ACC. I've got them at number 20. Now at number 19, a team that stocked up in the offseason on the transfer portal happens to be the Maryland Terrapins right here. As Maryland last season, they ranked at the bottom of the Big Ten in scoring and rebounding, but this season, though, Maryland should be much better in those two categories. Head coach Mark Turgeon, quick to the transfer portal, acquiring point guard Fats Russell from URI. He averaged over 18 points per game 2 seasons ago at Rhode Island. Russell is a scrappy defender. He is super fast in the court as well. He ranked 3rd nationally in steals per game 2 seasons ago. He's also better suited as a primary playmaker with other scorers around him to open up the court for himself. And that's what should be able to happen here at Maryland. The Terrapins' top scorer from last season, Eric Ayala, he returns for his senior season. And also Maryland will get a second transfer who averaged double figures last season with junior big man Qudus Wahab from Georgetown. And he last season finished the season strong. He had a career-high 20 points in the NCAA tournament versus Colorado. And back for Maryland will be 2 starters with Dante Scott and Hakeem Hart as well, along with Ayala, who returns. I've got Maryland at number 19. Now to number 18. This I have the Tennessee Vols at number 18 as Tennessee's top 2 scorers from last season, 5-star freshmen Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson. Both of them went to the NBA after one season. But once again, head coach Rick Barnes bringing in a top 5 recruiting class with 2 new 5-star recruits this season. The first one includes incoming point guard Kennedy Chandler and also power forward Brandon Huntley Hatfield, as Tennessee has one more significant loss that they happen to have in the offseason. Along with Springer and Johnson was their primary defender, Yves Pons, who went to the NBA. But back for Tennessee, they'll get these players back their number 3, 4, 6, and 7 scores, who all started at least 12 games last season, all upperclassmen as well, with Victor Bailey Jr. and Santiago Vescovi. They are back, along with Josiah Jordan James. All 3 of those are guards for Tennessee. And in the front court as well would be John Fulkerson, who he got an extra season of eligibility. He had a disappointing season last season after leading Tennessee in scoring during the season prior. Looking for the jump once again this season for Fulkerson to get back to where he was 2 seasons ago. But once again, Tennessee should be a dangerous defensive unit once again. I've got him at number 18. Now at number 17, that's where I have the North Carolina Tar Heels in a new era here. On their first season, head coach Hubert Davis. Davis made the step up to head coach after being UNC's assistant coach since 2012. North Carolina's main group of players will have at least 1 season underneath their belt, with the majority of these players returning as sophomores. The Tar Heels will have 8 top 100 recruits coming out of high school at some point on their roster for the season. In the backcourt, UNC will bring back sophomores Caleb Love, RJ Davis, and Kerwin Walton. Walton started to gain that role of being UNC's lead perimeter specialist during the last month of the season. And then returning at forward will be junior Armando Bacot, who led the Tar Heels last season in scoring and rebounding. Down low, I expect UNC to remain a force this season, and they got a great offseason pickup with transfer Garson Dacia, a 6'11 forward who averaged 13 points per game and over 6 rebounds per game during his freshman season at Marquette. 2 other power conference transfers will head over to UNC. That includes Brady Manick, a senior forward who started 111 games during his 4-year career at Oklahoma, and he can also add his shooting ability. He can make shots from the outside for the Tar Heels for Manick, and also coming in will be from Virginia, Justin McCoy, a forward who played 2 seasons for the Cavaliers. Now, it's kind of uncharacteristic here to see UNC that they don't really have a strong recruiting class like seasons past, but this is basically because a lot of players are back. Just 2 freshmen come to North Carolina as 4-star recruits. This is Dontrez Styles and DeMarco Dunn. The sophomore jump, though, for UNC's key players, that will be huge, plus their impact transfers. This should be able to put the team inside the top 25 for this upcoming season. I've got North Carolina at number 17. Now at number 16, we take a look at the Pac-12 right now with the Oregon Ducks. Oregon suffering multiple departures in the offseason, but once again, head coach Dana Altman doing what he does best, stacking up on transfers in the transfer portals and getting some quality offseason pickups. The Ducks only returned 2 starters from last season, both seniors, with point guard Will Richardson and forward Eric Williams Jr. Both of these players averaged at least 10 points per game. Departing in the offseason was 3 starters with Chris Duarte, Eugene Amarui, and LJ Figueroa. Now, the Ducks are getting some big-time transfer pickups to offset these departures. A lot of these players are go-to scorers as well, as coming over from Oklahoma is one of their key transfers. The number 2 scorer for the Sooners last season, Davion Harmon, who will be one of the guards on the roster, along with Jacob Young, Rutgers, number 2 scorer from last season as well, heads over to Eugene to play for Oregon. Dana Altman also to pick up another quality transfer in the front court with forward Quincy Guerrier from Syracuse. He was the number 2 scorer for the Orange, averaging just under 14 points per game last season. Offensively here, that is 5 players who are averaging over 10 points per game last season, with 3 transfers coming in. Harmon, Young, and Guerrier, all the number 2 scorer on power conference teams, now transferring to Oregon, along with the 2 players that's back with Will Richardson and also Eric Williams Jr. So this team offensively should be really tough to handle this upcoming season. Also, down low, though, it's going to be who will be the center for this team at the 5. That's the question mark for Oregon, as there's going to be a battle down low. It's going to be between N'Faly Dante, who he's got potential, but he started just 6 games last season due to injury. Also, Frank Kenping, who appeared in 17 games last season. And also Oregon bringing in a center with top 30 freshman Nathan Biddle. But I've got the Ducks right here at number 16 in my top 25 preseason poll. Now at number 15, this team just appeared in the Final Four last season. Here they are back in the top 25. This is the Houston Cougars at number 15, coming off a Final Four appearance in 2021. The first time since that happened since 1984. This is a different roster, though, than usual for this upcoming season, as they're going to expect some big competition along in the American with Memphis at the top of the conference. But head coach Kelvin Sampson coming off 4 straight seasons with 23 wins or more and 8 losses or less in the last 4 straight seasons. The Cougars did suffer some big offseason losses, though. Top scorer Quentin Grimes went to the NBA. Number 3 scorer Dejan Jarreau, leading rebounder Justin Gorb, all departed in the offseason. Back for Houston will be their number 2 scorer with guard Marcus Sasser, who averaged just under 14 points per game. Sophomore guard Tremont Mark, a top 75 recruit from the class of 2020. He is back. He will look to break out this season. And they'll bring out, once again, senior forward Fabian White Jr. He played the second part of last season. He is coming back from injury. He should be the leading rebounder this season for Houston. Now, Kelvin Sampson, he got a hold of a quality transfer with senior guard Kyler Edwards from Texas Tech. Texas Tech's number 4 scorer from last season. Led the Red Raiders in perimeter shooting. Two other transfers will head over to Houston here. That is Jars Carlton from UConn, and also Taze Moore from Cal State Bakersfield. And Houston's got some key games to highlight in the non-conference slate. That includes matchups versus Virginia, Butler, Alabama, and Oklahoma State. I've got the Cougars here at number 15. Now at number 14, that's where I have the Arkansas Razorbacks, as they're coming off a strong season, Elite 8 tournament run under head coach Eric Musselman, and he is building something special here at Arkansas. And once again, the transfers will play a crucial role here for this upcoming season for Arkansas, as they are tasked with the challenge replacing 3 of their starters who averaged all more than 10 points per game last season, replacing Moses Moody, Justin Smith, and Jalen Tate leaving the offseason. But Musselman getting some quality transfers here. 3 solid pickups. The first one, to help out the backcourt, senior point guard from Miami, Chris Lykes, who will instantly add a scoring punch to the lineup here for Arkansas. Lykes only played 2 games last season due to injury, but in the 2 seasons prior, he carried Miami offensively. He averaged more than 15 points per game during his 2 full seasons that he played with for the Hurricanes. Also, another key transfer here from the ACC as a senior to make the jump to the SEC now. That will be Au'Diese Toney from Pittsburgh. Toney coming off his best season yet for Pitt, averaging over 14 points per game. And also adding in a mid-major transfer here with senior guard Stanley Amude from South Dakota. He will make the transition over to Arkansas after finishing second in the Summit League this past season and scoring behind the nation's top scorer Max Asmus. Amude averaged over 21 points per game last season at South Dakota. In this transfer trio, it will make up an explosive backcourt for the Razorbacks for the season. Coming back for Arkansas will be Devontae Davis. He started the final 14 games last season, and he improved tremendously, posting double figures in all 4 of the NCAA tournament games that Arkansas played in. Also, coming back will be J.D. Notae, guard for Arkansas, who happened to be one of the 6-man players last season. He should be one of the top 6 men in all college basketball, as he averaged just under 13 points per game from the bench, averaging around 22 minutes per game last season. Now, the 2 bigs for Arkansas that will be back will be 7'3" big man Connor Vanover. He didn't get much playing time last season, but he was impressive with a small sample size, especially when it came to free throw shooting at 7'3", knocking down 20 free throws out of 21 at the charity stripe. Also, sophomore Jalen Williams, he didn't see much action as a freshman, but he should be able to see an uptick in minutes, as he has posted 4 games with 10 rebounds last season. And Arkansas last season, they had the number 11 offensive attack, averaging 81 points per game. I expect this season, once again, for the offense to keep on rolling. I've got the Razorbacks at number 14. At number 13, we'll head back to the American here, and this is the Memphis Tigers, as they are back inside the top 25 with a number 1 recruiting class as well. As it was back in 2019, they led all college basketball top recruiting class with James Wiseman, and coming in to Memphis will be 5-star freshman forward Imani Bates. He was originally the top recruit in the class of 2022, but reclassified a year earlier to play this season upcoming for Memphis. He initially committed to Michigan State, but then decommitted to play for the Tigers. Also, head coach Penny Hardaway will bring in a second 5-star freshman at center with Jalen Duran from Montverde Academy. Back for the Tigers will be 3 starters who all averaged over 9.5 points per game last season. Returning starters will be junior guard Landers Nolly, who played 2 seasons ago at Virginia Tech. He averaged over 13 points per game this past season at Memphis. He led the Tigers in scoring last season. Senior forward DeAndre Williams is back, averaging just under 12 points per game, and junior guard Lester Coyotes, he is back as well for Memphis. The depth on the bench, it continues with Memphis' point guard Alex Lomax, who averaged over 4 assists per game and an average of around 21 minutes of playing time last season. 3 key transfers coming over from power conference programs as well from Memphis, getting Earl Timberlake, a top 30 recruit from Miami, Chandler Lawson coming over from Oregon, and also Tyler Harris coming over from Iowa State. The talent, it is by far there for sure for Memphis, but will Memphis be able to put it together? That is the question here. Interesting fact is that Memphis has not been able to go to the NCAA tournament since 2014. That was their last NCAA tournament appearance, despite 5 straight seasons with 20 wins or more. And right here, the Tigers have it all set up for them with the talent that they have coming back, the top-ranked recruiting class in 2021. I've got them at number 13 for this upcoming season. Back to the SEC we go again at number 12. This is the Alabama Crimson Tide, and Nate Oates is building something special here for the Roll Tide. They're going into their 3rd season now at head coach with Oates. Alabama basketball on the rise and should continue on the upswing once again this season. The Crimson Tide had the top scoring and three-point shooting team last season in the SEC. They should primarily be led by their guards again, as Alabama, they did lose a lot in the offseason. 4 of their starters were their number 3 through 6 scorers: John Petty Jr., Herb Jones, Josh Primo, and Jordan Bruner, all leaving in the offseason. However, their number 1 and 2 scorers, both will be back. Leading scorer Jaden Shackelford back, along with Javon Quinterly, who was the 6th man last season for Alabama, averaged under 13 points per game off the bench. Nate Oates able to get a hold of a key transfer from Furman with Ford Noah Gurley, who averaged over 15 points per game last season at Furman. And also 2 top 35 recruits coming in. One of those 5 stars, one of those 4 stars, with 5-star point guard J.D. Davison, who is a top 10 recruit, and also 4-star center Charles Bediako, who will look to make an impact here at the center spot this season in place of Jordan Bruner. Now at number 11, I've got the defending champions here, number 11, the Baylor Bears. Leading all college basketball last season in three-point shooting percentage, knocking down over 41% of threes as a team. Baylor had a lot of massive departures in the offseason. Their top 3 scorers, Jared Butler, Maceo Teague, and Davion Mitchell, all departing in the offseason. But once again, Baylor should be led by their backcourt. That should be their strong suit once again here for Baylor. Top 2 bench scorers from last season, Adam Flagler and Matthew Meyer, who rocks a mullet. Both of these players should be able to move into the starting lineup. Flagler and Meyer, both of these players were 2 of 5 players in the roster who shot the ball greater than 39% from three-point range last season. In the backcourt, tremendous pickup in the offseason they got with senior point guard James Akinjo from Arizona. He should be able to lead the Bears this upcoming season in scoring. Akinjo has averaged over 13 points per game in each of his seasons. He played 2 seasons at Georgetown, then transferred last season to play at Arizona. Akinjo is coming off season highs in scoring, passing, and shooting, averaging over 15 points per game and over 5 assists per game last season, while shooting 40% from three-point range for the Wildcats. In the front court, some key players that will be more defensive type of specialists will be back once again for Baylor, with Jonathan Chanwa Chatua and also Flo Thamba. Sophomore guard LJ Cryer looking to take a second season jump after only averaging around 10 minutes per game last season. Scott Drew will bring in a top 15 recruit with Kendall Brown at small forward. They did have Langston Love, but he did get lost earlier this week to a season-ending injury as a freshman. But what a turnaround, though, for Scott Drew at Baylor. 21 wins and 53 losses in Drew's first 3 seasons as a head coach from 2004 to 2006. And now he has a national championship, Baylor's first ever, as the defending champions in 2021. Now at number 10. As we are inside the top 10 now, this is where I go back to the Big Ten, the Illinois Fighting Illini. I got at number 10. They lost 2 key players in the offseason. Their biggest name, point guard, All-American Ayo Dosunmu, happens to be a massive loss here, as he led Illinois averaging over 20 points per game, over 5 assists per game last season. But replacing him should be a breakout candidate for this upcoming season. That is point guard Andre Curbelo, as he averaged over 9 points per game, over 4 assists last season as a freshman. He only got around 21 and a half minutes of court time last season, so Curbelo now inside the starting 5 in place of Dosunmu, and he's going to be a crucial factor. He was last season leading Illinois to victories over Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Michigan, while Dosunmu missed playing time. And during that 3-game stretch when Dosunmu happened to miss time, Curbelo averaged over 14 points per game and over 8 rebounds per game with 3.6 assists per game. Back for Illinois will be 2 starters, who started all 31 games last season, and then they also get 2 other players who started either 16 or 17 games last season. Now, the top player for the Fighting Illini, he could be one of the best players this upcoming season in college basketball. That is their big man, 7-footer Kofi Cockburn, who decided to stay at Illinois for his junior season. He is super duper explosive, as Cockburn tallied in 16 double-doubles last season. Back for the Fighting Illini will be senior guard Trent Frazier, who averaged over 10 points per game, and also 2 returning guards with DeMonte Williams and Jacob Granderson also back. An X-Factor transfer pickup will be 6th Man of the Year potential with shooting guard Alfonso Plummer, who shot the ball over 40% from his career from three-point range at Utah. He is now playing for Illinois. And also head coach Brad Underwood acquiring a 6'10" big Omar Payne to back up Cockburn, as Payne comes from the Florida Gators. Now inside the top 10 at number 9, and back in the top 25 for a much better season this season after being a disappointment last year, I've got Big Blue Nation, the Kentucky Wildcats. That was just unwatchable last season, but Coach Cal taking a different path instead of the one-and-done freshman to go to the transfer wire, adding experience to the roster here for this upcoming season for Kentucky. 4 upperclassmen transfers. This whole roster will look entirely new in the starting units. Back for Kentucky will be its lone starter, top scorer, point guard Davion Mintz. And Mintz last season was a starter. He might come off the bench this season, and that is due to the quality transfer pickups that Coach Cal was able to get. Heading over to Kentucky will be Kellen Grady from Davidson. He has averaged over 17 points per game in all 4 of his seasons for the Davidson Wildcats. Mintz will also battle at the point guard position Xavier Wheeler from Georgia, as Wheeler led the SEC last year, averaging over 7 assists per game. Something that Kentucky desperately needs, which lacked last season, is ball movement, and Wheeler will be able to provide that. In the front court, getting a key addition here will be forward Oscar Tshiebwe from West Virginia. He will be a key player inside the interior. He averaged a double-double almost during his freshman season 2 years ago. The Fort transfer will be sharpshooter, shooting guard C.J. Frederick, which will provide perimeter shooting, which Kentucky also struggled with last season. Frederick made over 46% of his three-point shots during his 2 seasons at Iowa. Coach Cal also adding in 3 top 40 recruits, all expected to be bench players, unlike last season's groups where the 5-star freshmen were thrown into the fire to begin with. Coming to Kentucky will be 5-star point guard Ty Washington, also 5-star power forward Damian Collins. Both of these players, Washington and Collins, and the number 14 and number 15 freshmen coming in, and 4-star Bryce Hopkins, also the 3rd recruit coming in to Big Blue Nation. So Kentucky right here, they've got the experience for this upcoming season, and that experience should lead them back to the NCAA tournament. Inside the top 10, I've got them at number 9. Now at number 8. Both of these teams going to play each other in the Champions Classic on opening night. This is the Duke Blue Devils at number 8, and they should be back inside the NCAA tournament in Coach K's farewell season. Entering his final season now for Coach K, looking for his 6th national championship to cap it off, and looking to eclipse the 1,200 all-time win mark as well, pending a 30-win season at Duke if he gets it this upcoming season. The Blue Devils lost their top 3 scorers from Matthew Hurt, DJ Stewart, and Jalen Johnson, all going to the NBA. But Coach K, he'll return 3 players who started at least 15 games with forward Wendell Moore. He is back along with guard Jeremy Roach and center Mark Williams. All 3 of these players are going to be key in their returning trio, and all 3 were top 25 recruits coming out of high school. Mark Williams, he is due for a breakout season. During the last 4 games, Williams averaged 18.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game. He capped off his freshman season with a career-high 23 points and 19 rebounds against Louisville in the ACC tournament. 4 recruits. Coach K will bring in 3 5-star recruits. The biggest name to know will be power forward Paulo Banchero. He is the number 2 recruit and could be one of the top players this season in all college basketball. Also, top 20 recruit with small forward A.J. Griffin, and top 25 recruit with shooting guard Trevor Keels coming into Duke. 2 other key recruits for the Blue Devils. And also the bench will get an experienced forward from Marquette with senior Theo John, who started 89 games during the course of his 4 seasons for the Golden Eagles. Duke looking to make a deep run to the NCAA tournament in Coach K's farewell season. I've got him at number 8 in my preseason poll. Now at number 7, retention is key into the Big Ten. We have a team that has retained basically everybody, and that is the Purdue Boilermakers. They have been put in the position to thrive this season since the entire starting lineup is heading back. 6 players who average 8 points or more returning for Purdue. Senior forward Travion Williams, the biggest name to know. He should be one of the top players in college basketball as he has improved each and every single season for the Boilermakers, averaging 15.5 points per game and 9 rebounds last season for Purdue. Back in the lineup as well will be Jaden Ivey, who is coming off a fantastic freshman season. He scored a career-high 26 points in the NCAA tournament against North Texas. He averaged over 11 points per game in his freshman season. Back in the backcourt will be Sasha Stefanovic, Eric Hunter Jr., and Brandon Newman. All 3 will be back for Purdue, along with their big man, 7'4" center, Zach Edey. He is back as well. He averaged over 8 points per game despite playing just under 15 minutes of court time. He had some big games in the paint last season as well for Edey. This team should be deep for Purdue. As their freshmen last season, they went on a bigger roll than I had anticipated, and that's why they had made a jump into the top 25 late last season. Purdue had the second-ranked defense last season in the Big Ten. The big question is whether they can get over the hump and win multiple NCAA tournament games in the 2022 tournament. Retention right there. Everybody basically coming back. I've got Purdue at number 7. Now at number 6, we'll stick with the Big Ten. You like bigs? We got one right here. Hunter Dickinson, going in to be one of the top players in all college basketball. He is back from Michigan as Michigan brings in the number 2 ranked recruiting class as well behind Memphis. They did have 3 key players with starters departing in the offseason: Isaiah Livers, Franz Wagner going to the NBA, and Mike Smith. And they also lost their 6th man, Shawnee Brown. But Hunter Dickinson, the biggest name to know, phenomenal freshman season, averaging over 14 points per game, over 7 rebounds per game, shooting just under 60% from the field, and he was a massive defensive force. There was a game late in February last year where they took on Luka Garza in Iowa, and Dickinson held Garza to shoot the ball 6 for 19 from the floor in that game. So Dickinson coming in, one of the top players in college basketball. Joining Dickinson on Michigan, back for the Wolverines will be guard Eli Brooks, who tied a career high of 5 made threes and 7 assists versus LSU in the NCAA tournament. Senior forward Brandon Johns Jr., he is back. He should see an uptick in minutes as well for this upcoming season. Head coach Juwan Howard getting a solid point guard replacement with senior Devontae Jones coming over from Coastal Carolina. Jones was the number 2 scorer last season in the Sun Belt, averaging over 19 points per game, and also bringing in 2 5-star recruits which will head to Ann Arbor. The first one, power forward Caleb Houston from Montverde Academy, and also Musa Diabate from IMG Academy. This is a loaded Big Ten right here. It's full of bigs. I've got the Wolverines at the top of the Big Ten Conference this season, just above Purdue, and I've got them at number 6 in my top 25. Now at number 5, this is where I have Villanova. At number 5, head coach Jay Wright only losing 2 players in the offseason. The biggest loss, leading scorer, leading rebounder, Jeremiah Robinson Earl going to the NBA draft. The second departure was bench player Cole Swider, who transferred to Syracuse. Back, though, for Villanova will be point guard Colin Gillespie. He has been cleared to play after suffering a torn MCL in early March. Also in the backcourt, returning starting guards Justin Moore and Caleb Daniels. Returning in the starting front court, senior Jermaine Samuels. All 4 Villanova starters averaged over 9 points per game last season. Sophomore center Eric Dixon, he's going to be in line for a huge jump for this upcoming season in playing time for Villanova. Villanova has 6 former top 100 recruits listed on the roster, and 2 of those players are incoming freshmen with 4-star recruits Jordan Longino and Nana Njoku. The concern, though, for Villanova is on the glass. They are undersized in the front court and will have to place their leading rebounder Robinson Earl from last season. So that's why Villanova is more of a perimeter-oriented team. So if they can't get hot from the outside, it might be tough for them to compete on the glass because they do have questions coming in with not much playing time at that 5 position, as it should be Eric Dixon in line for that spot for this upcoming season. But I've got Villanova at number 5. Now at number 4. Inside the Big 12, we have some competition here, and that's where I've got the Texas Longhorns at number 4, stocking up on the transfer portal. And they've got a new head coach in town as well, back to his alma mater. Familiar background for Chris Beard. After coaching Texas Tech for the past 5 seasons, he returns to Austin to coach the Longhorns right now, as Beard took the Red Raiders to 3 NCAA tournament appearances, runner-up in the 2019 title game. Bill of transfers right here for Texas. They lost some players in the offseason as well. Matt Coleman, Greg Brown, Jericho Sims all going to the NBA, but back in the backcourt, two key players here. Andrew Jones coming back. He was clutch late in games last season. Courtney Ramey also back for Texas, who averaged over 12 points per game last season. And here are the big name transfers coming in. Picking up a bucket here with guard Marcus Carr from Minnesota. He led college basketball early in the season last season in scoring. He averaged over 19 points per game for Minnesota. The second transfer coming in is senior forward Timmy Allen, who averaged over 17 points per game and over 6 rebounds per game last season at Utah. The third transfer coming in is Trey Mitchell from UMass. He averaged over 18 points per game and over 7 rebounds per game last season from the Minutemen. Also coming off the bench is a player who has averaged 15 points per game, and he did that last season for Vanderbilt. That is Dylan DeSuze. So they have so many scores on this lineup right here for Texas. They got another double-digit score coming in via transfer, and that is Christian Bishop from Creighton, who is coming in, who should play off the bench as well, and he is explosive at the rim. And also heading over via transfer is point guard Devin Askew from Kentucky, who is one of the youngest players last season in college basketball after reclassifying to the class of 2020. So this talent for sure right here for Texas. They got 7 double-digit scores from last season that played college basketball either at Texas, with 2 of them, Jones and Ramey, and then there are 5 transfers heading over to Texas. Texas has never won a national title. With this group of impact transfers right here, a new head coach who has been to the national championship before, Texas has a shot to redeem themselves for a deep NCAA tournament run. I've got them at number 4. Now at number 3, we will stay in the Big 12. Once again, I've got the Kansas Jayhawks, another team benefiting from the transfer portal. Kansas last appeared in the Final Four in 2018. They have a legitimate shot to get there once again. They lost only one starter in the offseason, which was their number 4 scorer, 3-time Big 12 All-Defensive Team Player, the 2020 Defensive Player of the Year for college basketball. That is Marcus Garrett, who departed to the NBA. But back as starters will be guards Achai Agbaji and Christian Brown. Both of these players averaged more than 5 made 3-point attempts per game last season, as they have more of a reliant perimeter attack in the backcourt. Returning as well in the front court, this will be David McCormack and also leading rebounder Jalen Wilson, who improved tremendously last season. He had 9 double-doubles, and he was one of the most improved players in all of college basketball. This is the impact transfer right here. Head coach Bill Self adding in an elite go-to scorer. Senior point guard Remy Martin, who led the Pac-12 conference last season in scoring, averaging 19 points per game for Arizona State. Martin was one of the favorites last season, heading in behind Luka Garza for National Player of the Year. Despite a rough season at Arizona State, Martin was still able to produce with those big numbers, and he will give Kansas a tremendous scoring attack for this upcoming season. Kansas ranked number 7 in the conference last season in scoring. Remy Martin will be able to boost that up a ton. And also, another key player coming in, a player that averaged over 12 points per game last season at Drake, that is Joseph Yesufu, who comes in now to Kansas. He should be able to play a key role off the bench. Also coming in will be Jalen Coleman-Lands, who was the number 2 scorer last season at Iowa State. And Coleman-Lands has transferred now to his 4th program since 2015. He has been playing college basketball since 2015 at the age of 25 for Jalen Coleman-Lands. And he's going to play his final season here in Lawrence for the Jayhawks. So this backcourt, it is absolutely stacked for Kansas. 4 seniors and 3 juniors on the roster. I've got Kansas at number 3. And now coming down to the top 2 inside my top 25 poll. At number 2, I've got returning for everybody, the UCLA Bruins. If not for the first 4 round, there is no way that UCLA would even be this high on everybody's list. UCLA went from being the last team in the tournament to trailing by double digits in the first 4 against Michigan State, to coming back to beat Michigan State, and then winning over BYU, Abilene Christian, Alabama in overtime, Michigan in the final seconds, before eventually falling in the Final Four to Gonzaga with Jalen Suggs game-winning buzzer from half court. UCLA, they're able to control the game. That's why they went far to the Final Four in the tournament. They play offense at a slow and methodical pace, and they will win games by winning the turnover battle and controlling tempo. And that's exactly how they got their deep run. They will return all their 5 starters from last season who averaged at least 10 points per game. The breakout star of the NCAA tournament is back. He is going in as one of the favorites this season. Could be potential National Player of the Year. That is Johnny Juzang coming off a huge tournament. Jaime Jaquez, the number 2 star in the tournament for UCLA. He is back, along with point guard Tiger Campbell, who finished the tournament with 27 assists to just 7 total turnovers. Senior Cody Riley and Jules Barnard, both seniors, they are back. And 2 starters for UCLA. Providing depth in the front court will be Miles Johnson, a transfer, a center from Rutgers. He is coming over to UCLA. He led the Scarlet Knights last season in rebounds. And also, the Bruins adding in a 5-star top 15 recruit with small forward Peyton Watson, and also a 4-star recruit with Will McClendon. So head coach Mick Croman, he is looking here to guide UCLA to their 12th national title in program history. The Bruins are in search of their next title since 1995. That's where I have them at number 2. And here we go now to number 1, the top team in my preseason poll coming in for the 2021-22 college basketball season, and this is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Entering last season's national championship game, Gonzaga entered 31-0. They were outmatched physically from the start against the more athletic Baylor squad. Now, Gonzaga did lose some key players here to the NBA. Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs, Joel Ayayi. But Gonzaga's front court absolutely stacked. Leading scorer, leading rebounder, Drew Timme, he is back. He goes in as the favorite for National Player of the Year this upcoming season. Also stacked in the front court, the number 1 freshman, 7-foot center, Chet Holmgren. The top recruit played at the same high school as Jalen Suggs, now playing for Gonzaga. Also a second 5-star recruit coming in with guard Hunter Salas. A top 35 4-star recruit coming in with Nolan Hickman. And also coming back, some impact players as well. As they got back in the lineup, Andrew Nembhard for his senior season at point guard. He started 16 games last season. Junior forward Anton Watson, he will be back, started 17 games last season. And also adding in even more depth potentially for Gonzaga. This is transfer Rasir Bolton, who is waiting for a waiver to play this upcoming season for college basketball. Bolton was the leading scorer this past season for Iowa State, averaging 15.5 points per game, as Gonzaga will have 10 top 100 recruits coming out of high school at some point on their roster. And Gonzaga has non-conference matchups as well against these teams as they stack up in the non-conference slate, playing against teams like Texas, UCLA, Duke, Alabama, and Texas Tech. So that's a wrap to my video right here. My college basketball top 25 predictions for the 2021-2022 college basketball season. Be sure to check out my second video with teams number 45 through 26. That video is posted down in the description below. Also, like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this rankings video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, as this is Behind the Arc Basketball.